Welcome back, Focus learners, to another explainer. Today, we're capturing the essentials of Rhian Lewis's really insightful book, The Cryptocurrency Revolution. And we're going to do it all in 8 minutes or less. We're looking at the massive leap from trading physical shells to trading cryptographic tokens, and what that actually means for the entire foundation of global finance. Okay, let's dive into this.
So what is money really? It's kind of a deep philosophical question, and let's be honest, you probably don't ask yourself that when you're just tapping your card for a morning coffee. But at its absolute core, as the author points out, money is simply an abstraction of reality. It's literally just a manifestation of human trust. Think about it. You can't eat a dollar bill, and it definitely won't keep you warm, but you trust that it can be exchanged for food and shelter. Without that shared trust, money is just paper. It's nothing.
Here's our roadmap for today. 1. The illusion of money. 2. The trust problem. 3. The Bitcoin revolution. 4. Smart contracts and tokens. And finally, 5. The future of finance.
All right, starting with Section 1, the illusion of money.
To really wrap our heads around digital currencies, we first have to look at how our behavior around exchanging value has evolved over thousands of years. And this brilliantly illustrates that exact journey. We go from Sumerian clay tokens millennia ago to Chinese spade money, all the way to governments abandoning the gold standard in the 20th century, and then, boom, the Bitcoin Genesis block in 2009. Cryptocurrency isn't just some random anomaly. It's simply the next technological iteration of humanity trying to efficiently store the fruits of our labor. To prove that money requires zero intrinsic value, just our collective belief, look at these two amazing examples from the text. On the island of Yap in Micronesia, locals literally use massive limestone boulders as currency. In fact, even when one of these giant stones sank to the bottom of the sea during a storm, the islanders just collectively agreed it still existed, and so it kept right on being used in their oral payment records. I mean, how wild is that? Contrast that with a modern story in Colombia. A clever dog watched students buy food with paper money and then successfully began paying the cafe owner with leaves to get treats. Both examples hit the nail on the head. Money is entirely about shared belief.
Moving on to Section 2, the trust problem. Well, if money is based purely on belief, what happens when the central authorities managing it totally betray that trust? Historically speaking, relying solely on central authorities has presented some severe vulnerabilities. Back in 1923, reckless money printing in Weimar Germany caused catastrophic hyperinflation. They were literally printing trillion-mark notes, causing widespread economic misery. Fast forward to 2007 in the UK, and the Northern Rock bank run exposed the massive systemic risks of modern fractional reserve banking. When a bank lends out way more money than it actually holds in reserve, a sudden loss of public trust can collapse the whole institution overnight, which directly threatens your life savings.
So the crucial point is the stark contrast between these two systems. On one side, we have traditional fractional reserve fiat banking. That system relies entirely on centralized risk and trust-based ledgers maintained by human intermediaries. On the other side, we have blockchain technology. This is a completely decentralized, cryptographic single source of truth. With blockchain, the ledger is verified by math and consensus, completely removing the need to blindly trust a central human authority with your funds.
Which brings us to Section 3, the Bitcoin revolution.
This breakthrough moved us straight from theory into reality. It was all sparked by the mysterious Satoshi Nakamoto's 2008 white paper, which proposed an entirely new monetary system totally out of state control. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is just how nascent this whole revolution was. Take a look at this forum post from 2010. Someone is trying to sell a standard 4GB flash drive for 2,200 Bitcoin. Today, obviously, that amount of Bitcoin would be worth an absolute mind-boggling fortune. But it adds this fascinating historical flavor, showing how early adopters were experimenting with Bitcoin purely as a medium of exchange, long before it evolved into the multi-billion-dollar asset class we know today.
And the main reason Bitcoin became such a powerful asset is largely due to this number right here, 21 million. See, unlike fiat currencies that central banks can print endlessly, which risks that exact hyperinflation we talked about earlier, Bitcoin has a hard-coded maximum supply. There will literally never be more than 21 million Bitcoins in existence. By writing scarcity directly into the code itself, Bitcoin attempts to solve the inflation problem mechanically rather than relying on human policy.
Section 4, smart contracts and tokens.
As revolutionary as digital cash is, the technology didn't just stop there. Enter the smart contract.
Now, this isn't a traditional paper contract at all. It's really just a chunk of computer code executed on a distributed system that automatically enforces the rules of an agreement. Basically, when A happens, B is automatically triggered, no questions asked. It effectively removes the need for lawyers, escrow agents, or any human middlemen to enforce a transaction.
And that logic applies to tokens as well, bringing us to a concept called tokenomics. Tokenomics is essentially the balance of incentives, penalties, and governance that gives a digital token its underlying structure and value. Think of it as the economic framework programmed directly into a blockchain to dictate exactly how it survives and how it interacts with the outside world.
So why do we actually need these tokens? Well, they provide the economic incentives that make decentralization possible in the first place. They reward users for securing the network, they automate payments, and they create entirely new business models. However, we have to neutrally acknowledge the historic dangers here too. During the initial coin offering or ICO bubble, a lot of companies simply shoehorn totally unnecessary tokens into really bad business ideas just to raise money. It proves that not every single project actually requires a token economy to function.
Finally, Section 5, the future of finance. Let's move to and see how this builds into the broader global picture.
Legacy banking systems and national governments are certainly not sitting still in the face of this rapid innovation. Because of that, we are now entering the era of DeFi, or decentralized finance. If the very first era of crypto was just about moving money from point A to point B, DeFi is about moving value across time. It allows you, as an individual on a permissionless network, to instantly access complex financial instruments, like lending, borrowing, and earning interest. Stuff that historically required massive, clunky banking infrastructure and credit checks to approve.
But you know the incumbents are pushing back. We're currently seeing a massive race to create centralized digital currencies so they can maintain control and a cashless future. Megacorporations have attempted to launch their own corporate coins, like Facebook's Libra project. At the same exact time, nation-states are developing state digital currencies, such as China's DCEP and the UK's conceptual RS coin. This marks a massive macroeconomic shift where state and corporate powers are actively adopting blockchain plumbing but desperately trying to keep centralized control.
And because these assets are completely borderless by nature, governments are really struggling to classify them, which leads to this global regulatory fragmentation. As you can see, Switzerland treats crypto as a foreign currency, Israel taxes it as an asset, while the UK applies a whole mix of corporate, income, and capital gains taxes depending on the user. Impartially speaking, this completely scattered patchwork of regulations presents a pretty severe hurdle for the global adoption of a unified digital economy. Yet there really is a silver lining for regulators if they choose to see it. The source text points out a truly staggering fact. The current global financial system only catches about 1% of laundered money. 1%. Rather than fearing crypto, regulators could actually harness this technology. After all, a public blockchain is a transparent, immutable ledger. If utilized pragmatically, it might just be the greatest tool ever invented for tracking illicit financial flows.
Which leaves us with one final, profound question to ponder. Are we actually ready for a cashless society governed by code? Over the coming decade, these overlapping innovations, from truly decentralized ledgers like Bitcoin all the way to state-issued, highly surveilled tokens, will fundamentally reshape our entire global concept of trust, authority, and money. The revolution has already started. The only real question is what the final architecture is going to look like. If you enjoyed this, subscribe to In 8 Minutes and never miss what matters.